Let me ask you something personal, and I want you to really think about this before you answer. How many times have you sat down at the breakfast table, looked at a plate of eggs, and felt guilty? How many times have you pushed them away or eaten them in silence while wondering whether you were slowly making things worse for yourself? How many times has someone, maybe a friend, maybe even a doctor, told you to be careful with eggs because of your diabetes, without ever really explaining why or what the right way to eat them actually looks like? If that's you, I want you to stay right here with me, because what I'm going to share with you today could genuinely change the way you eat, the way you manage your blood sugar, and honestly, the way you feel every single morning. I'm Dr. Richard Ben, and on this channel, we don't do fear-based health advice. We do facts, we do science, and we do practical, real-world guidance that you can actually use. Today, we are talking about eggs. Specifically, how to eat eggs correctly if you are diabetic, so that you can keep your blood sugar under control and still enjoy one of the most nutritious foods on the planet. Because here's what most people don't realize. Eggs themselves are not the enemy, but the way most diabetics are eating them absolutely can be. And that's exactly what we're going to fix today. So let's start at the very beginning, because I think a lot of the confusion around eggs and diabetes comes from a history of bad science and outdated advice. For decades, and I mean decades, people were told that eggs were dangerous because of their cholesterol content. One large egg contains roughly 186 milligrams of dietary cholesterol. And for years, the medical community believed that dietary cholesterol directly raised blood cholesterol and increased heart disease risk. And since people with type 2 diabetes are already at an elevated risk for cardiovascular disease, eggs became this feared food, this thing that people avoided or severely limited. But here's what the research has shown us since then. Dietary cholesterol and blood cholesterol are not the same thing. The cholesterol you eat does not automatically translate into dangerous levels of LDL cholesterol in your blood. For most people, the liver actually compensates by producing less cholesterol when you eat more of it in your diet. The real drivers of dangerous blood cholesterol are trans fats, excess refined carbohydrates, and chronic inflammation, not the egg on your breakfast plate. Multiple large-scale studies have now confirmed that moderate egg consumption does not significantly increase cardiovascular risk in most people, including those with type 2 diabetes, when eggs are consumed as part of an overall healthy dietary pattern. Now, I want to be precise here because precision matters. There have been some studies, particularly older ones, that did find associations between high egg consumption and increased cardiovascular events in diabetic populations. But when researchers dug deeper, they found that the real problem wasn't the eggs themselves. It was everything those eggs were being eaten with: the white toast, the processed breakfast meat, the sugary orange juice, the refined cereals on the side. You can't isolate one food and blame it for the damage being done by an entire dietary pattern. That's not how nutrition science works. So with that foundation in place, let's talk about what makes eggs genuinely beneficial for someone managing diabetes. And trust me, the benefits are impressive. First and most importantly, eggs are essentially a zero-carbohydrate food. One large egg contains less than 1 gram of carbohydrates. Less than 1 gram. For a diabetic, that is extraordinarily significant. Carbohydrates are the primary driver of post-meal blood sugar spikes. When you eat a food with virtually no carbs, you are not giving your body the raw material to spike your glucose. That alone makes eggs one of the most blood sugar-friendly foods in existence. But it goes deeper than that. Eggs are one of the most complete protein sources available to us. A single large egg provides about 6 grams of high-quality protein, with an amino acid profile that is nearly perfect for human nutrition. And protein is your best friend when it comes to blood sugar control. Here's why. Protein slows down gastric emptying, the rate at which food moves from your stomach into your small intestine. When digestion slows down, any carbohydrates you are eating alongside that protein are absorbed more gradually, which means a gentler, more manageable rise in blood glucose rather than a sharp spike. Protein also triggers the release of hormones that signal fullness and satisfaction, which means you're less likely to reach for that mid-morning sugary snack that sends your blood sugar on a roller coaster. Then there's the matter of fat. A large egg contains approximately 5 grams of fat, with a mix of saturated and unsaturated fatty acids. And before you panic about that fat content, let me remind you of something critical. Fat, like protein, does not raise blood sugar. Fat slows digestion. Fat promotes satiety. Fat supports the absorption of fat-soluble vitamins like A, D, E, and K. And the yolk of an egg is where nearly all of this nutritional goodness lives, including choline, lutein, zeaxanthin, B vitamins, and selenium. When you eat whole eggs, you are giving your body a genuinely powerful package of nutrients. Now let's get into the part that most videos skip entirely, the how. Because knowing that eggs are good isn't enough. You need to know how to eat them correctly to actually get the blood sugar benefits. And this is where I see so many of my patients going wrong, even when they think they're making healthy choices. The first and perhaps most critical factor is what you cook your eggs in. This might sound simple, but it has enormous implications. When you fry eggs in butter, particularly large amounts of it, or in vegetable oils like sunflower oil, corn oil, or soybean oil, you are adding a significant load of inflammatory omega-6 fatty acids to your meal. Chronic inflammation is deeply connected to insulin resistance, which is the core metabolic dysfunction in type 2 diabetes. The more inflammation in your body, the harder it is for your cells to respond properly to insulin. So even though the egg itself is not contributing to blood sugar problems, the oil you're cooking it in might be fueling the underlying resistance that makes blood sugar management harder. The better options are cooking your eggs in extra virgin olive oil, which is rich in oleic acid and polyphenols and has been extensively studied for its anti-inflammatory benefits. Or cooking them in avocado oil, which has a high smoke point and an excellent fatty acid profile. Even a small amount of grass-fed butter used sparingly is preferable to refined vegetable oils. And of course, poaching or boiling your eggs requires no added fat at all, which gives you the full nutritional benefit of the egg without any of the cooking oil variable. The second factor, and this one is so important I want you to really hear it, is what you eat your eggs with. This is where the blood sugar story either comes together beautifully or falls completely apart. I see people eat perfectly prepared eggs alongside 2 slices of white toast, a glass of orange juice, and maybe some hash browns, and then wonder why their blood sugar is out of control. The eggs in that scenario are doing everything right. Everything around them is doing everything wrong. White bread and white toast have a glycemic index that rivals pure table sugar. Orange juice, despite all the marketing about it being healthy, is essentially liquid fructose with very little fiber to slow its absorption. Hash browns are refined starch cooked in oil. When you eat eggs alongside these foods, the blood sugar spike from those carbohydrates is not significantly blunted by the protein and fat in the eggs. Your body is still processing a massive carbohydrate load, and your blood sugar will reflect that. Instead, pair your eggs with foods that work with them, not against them. Non-starchy vegetables are your best partners. Spinach, kale, bell peppers, mushrooms, tomatoes, zucchini, onions. These foods are rich in fiber, which further slows digestion and blunts blood sugar response. They're full of antioxidants and micronutrients. They add volume and satisfaction to your meal without meaningfully impacting your glucose. A 2-egg scramble loaded with spinach, mushrooms, and bell peppers cooked in olive oil is genuinely one of the most blood sugar-friendly meals you can eat. Start the day with that, and you are setting yourself up for stable energy and better glucose readings for hours. If you want some carbohydrate alongside your eggs, choose wisely. A small serving of steel-cut oats, not instant oats, has a much lower glycemic impact than bread. One slice of whole grain, high fiber bread is a far better choice than two slices of white. Half an avocado adds wonderful healthy fat and fiber and barely moves the glycemic needle at all. Berries, strawberries, blueberries, raspberries, are relatively low glycemic fruits that pair beautifully with eggs at breakfast. The third factor is timing and meal structure. When you eat your eggs matters, and how your overall meal is structured matters. Research consistently shows that eating protein and fat before or at the start of a meal, rather than at the end, leads to lower post-meal blood sugar spikes. If you eat the carbohydrate-heavy part of your meal first, you get the full glycemic hit without any buffering. But if you eat your eggs, your vegetables, and your protein first, and then have a small amount of carbohydrate, your blood sugar response is measurably more controlled. This also applies to your meal timing more broadly. For people with type 2 diabetes, there is growing evidence that eating earlier in the day, when insulin sensitivity tends to be higher, leads to better blood sugar outcomes than eating the same foods late at night when metabolic function tends to be lower. A protein-rich, egg-based breakfast is not just good for blood sugar, it also tends to reduce total calorie intake throughout the day because it keeps you full and prevents the desperate mid-morning hunger that leads to poor snacking choices. Now, how many eggs is the right number? This is one of the most common questions I get, and the honest answer is that for most people with type 2 diabetes who are eating an otherwise balanced, lower carbohydrate diet, eating 1 to 2 eggs per day is well supported by the evidence. Some studies have looked at up to 12 eggs per week in diabetic populations without finding significant negative effects on cholesterol profiles or cardiovascular markers. However, individual response does vary. Some people, a minority, are what we call hyper-responders, meaning their LDL cholesterol does rise more meaningfully in response to dietary cholesterol. If that's you, you may need to be more moderate. The only way to know is to monitor your own blood work over time. I also want to address the egg white versus whole egg debate, because many diabetics have been told to eat only egg whites and discard the yolk. I understand where this advice comes from. The yolk is where the cholesterol and fat live, but the yolk is also where the vast majority of the egg's nutrition lives. The lutein and zeaxanthin that protect your eye health in the yolk. The choline that supports brain function and liver health in the yolk. The fat-soluble vitamins in the yolk. The B vitamins in the yolk. When you eat only egg whites, you're getting protein and very little else. You are throwing away some of the most nutrient-dense food on the planet. Unless you have a specific medical reason to restrict fat or cholesterol as directed by your physician, eating whole eggs is the better nutritional choice. Let me also talk about something that doesn't get nearly enough attention in these conversations: the importance of consistency and overall dietary pattern versus single food decisions. Diabetes management is not about any one food. It's about the cumulative effect of every food choice you make day after day, week after week. Eggs are a tool, a powerful, blood sugar-friendly tool, but they work best as part of a dietary pattern that emphasizes whole, unprocessed foods, adequate fiber, healthy fats, lean proteins, and minimal refined carbohydrates and added sugars. If you are eating eggs for breakfast, but then having a fast food lunch, a processed snack in the afternoon, and a pasta-heavy dinner, the eggs are not going to save your blood sugar numbers. What eggs can do, when used correctly, is give you a stable, satisfying, blood sugar-neutral anchor for your day. They can help you feel full longer, reduce cravings, and avoid the morning blood sugar spike that sets the tone for unstable glucose all day long. I want you to think about something for a moment. The morning meal is not just about calories. It's about signaling. When you start your day with a high-carbohydrate, low-protein breakfast, the sugary cereal, the toast and jam, the flavored yogurt, you send your blood sugar on an immediate climb. Your pancreas pumps out insulin to bring it back down. That insulin surge often overcorrects, and your blood sugar drops below baseline, triggering hunger again within an hour or two. And that hunger sends you back to whatever is convenient and available, which is often more carbohydrates. It's a cycle, it's exhausting, and it makes diabetes management feel almost impossible. When you start your day with 2 whole eggs cooked in olive oil with a side of sautéed vegetables, you start your day with stability. Blood sugar barely moves. Insulin response is minimal. You feel satisfied and energized. The next time you're hungry is genuinely hours later, not 45 minutes later. And when you do eat again, you're making that decision from a place of reasonable hunger, not desperation. That's the power of doing eggs correctly. So let me leave you with a simple, practical summary you can start using from tomorrow morning. Choose whole eggs over egg whites whenever possible. Cook them in olive oil, avocado oil, or use the boiling or poaching method. Pair them with non-starchy vegetables. The more colorful, the better. Avoid pairing them with white bread, sugary beverages, or processed breakfast foods. Eat your eggs and vegetables first if your meal includes any carbohydrates. Aim for 1 to 2 eggs per day as a sustainable habit. And monitor your own blood sugar response over time, because your body is unique and your data is your most powerful guide. Eggs are not your enemy. When you understand them, respect them, and eat them the right way, they become one of the most powerful allies you have in managing your diabetes and feeling your absolute best every single day. If this video helped you, please give it a like and share it with someone you know who is managing diabetes, because this information could genuinely make a difference in their life. Subscribe to this channel if you haven't already, because we put out evidence-based health and nutrition content every week. Drop a comment below and let me know, how do you currently eat your eggs? I read every single comment and I would love to hear from you. I'm Dr. Richard Ben. Take care of yourself. I'll see you in the next video.